It's not colorism.
It's not just hatred, though. There is an active disenfranchisement when it comes to dark-skinned people that does not happen with light-skinned people.
Yes. All right, but hold on. I want to go back to what he was saying about.
I'm still confused about this. It's like the one drop rule.
Look up the definition. It only applies to dark-skinned people. But we experience, I don't know, I would call it like a sense of like rejection, or if you're not really, I don't know. It's a different terminology. You know, I don't really want to argue about terminology right now. So I'll back to what you're saying about, you know, race is an illusion and race is like a social construct. I think that yes, and then white people have had the power to like determine who we are based on, you know what I'm saying? They've been the ones that have been determining, oh, this is what this means to be this, and this is what this means. So it's like, I do think that the whole racial is outdated, and we need to figure out who we are for ourselves and not let, you know, the white supremacist racial social construct of race define who we are anymore. So that's why it's like, you know, I think that's why we need to take back our power and make sure and assert our identity and best suits not what is for the binary racial construct system that white people, because, you know, it's always changing. Like historically it's changed. You know, we used to have our own category at one point, you know, the mulattoes, like it's a slur, but it was its own racial category at one point, but it got taken away. So it's like there it go, like people just pick and choose whenever they feel like, oh, you can have your category and then you not, and then it's like, you know what I'm saying? So
can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I completely understand that. I agree. Race is a social construct, and it was used in the past, and it's still today.
I think that race is real. Like race is a real thing because cultures and race are tied hand in hand.
Race is not a real thing.
I think it's like but it's what we give meaning to it. You know what I'm saying? That's the issue, because like there's social constructs around race. Like that's what I.
Race.
Do you think, or have you studied this?
It's not biological.
It's not biological. It's not scientific. It's a generalization of a very diverse group of people, and minimizing them to black. There's so much genetic diversity in Africa. It's so much that it wouldn't be logical to categorize all these people on this continent as one race. It's like India. India has like, I don't know, like thousands of different types of people, different ethnic groups, but they're all Indian.
It says in the statistic,
it makes no sense.
India and Asia has more Negroes than Africa.
Yeah, human beings, they look different based on like where they're at in their equator and how they adapted to their environment, right? So it's like, what do we name that? If it's not race, like what do we name the phenotype differences? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, what do we name?
I can clarify this for y'all.
We don't. We're all humans.
Yeah,
we don't have to clarify.
Peace and love, y'all.
I just want to ask a question. I know Evergreen is going to blow y'all mind. I just want to say, like, ask you, like, what would be the benefit for biracial people to have, like, their own category? Like, in America, the way we know race as it, like, today, what would it be beneficial for biracial people to have our own category when biracial could be literally any two races? We don't go through the same thing.
Exactly. Like in the UK, they have a biracial category.
You're saying, like, you said that we need biracial spaces, or you're not saying that we need to be separated, but I feel like you're saying that we need biracial safe spaces. And how would it benefit me when you and I both like are biracial, but we go through life like kind of differently? Other biracial people that are not black and white, like they move through life differently. So what would it benefit us to have a biracial safe space?
So here's what I think that, okay, so when it comes back to the category thing, so in the UK, right, they have a category where you could pick biracial, then you could pick the Pacific mixes of exactly what you're mixed with. So they could get like demographics and like information about like, it's about us, like we could get information and gather information about our demographics so we can, you know, meet the needs of this certain demographic. Like you know, if we have mental health.
What needs to be met?
Like mental health needs, like, you know, we have a very high rate of suicide in the biracial community, so it's like that's something that needs to be addressed within our community. Yeah, go ahead.
I think one thing that when it comes to biracials is that one thing we do understand that you guys are more accepted in the Black communities than you are in your other side of community, whatever that may be, especially if it's of a lighter nation. So it's just kind of like it's always this sense of beating Black people over the head about accepting you. And
honestly,
no,
you don't have to.
I want to say
some
this.
people who don't, and it's okay because I'm not worried about acceptance anymore.
We accept you guys for the most part, but I think what it is that when it comes to your privilege with whatever you guys are mixed with, you guys throw that into the equation. It makes us want to like cancel you out. But then also it's just kind of like, why aren't your voices as loud with the whites, the Asians, whatever you guys are mixed with? Why aren't your voices as loud with them as it is with Black people? Like, it just doesn't make sense because I feel like you receive more
when it comes to acceptance, though. When it comes to acceptance, I'm definitely not worried about like acceptance anymore because there's always going to be people who do accept it, some people who don't. So I take it on an individual basis. If somebody's going to respect my mixed race identity, then I'm cool with that. Some people don't. There is some people in the Black community that don't. There's definitely some people in the white community that do and they don't. It's like that's how I treat it. It's like it's an individual thing. So it's not really about me like asking for acceptance from anybody no more but when it comes to historically, biracial people have been on the front lines when it comes to fighting for like Black rights. So it's like we've always had.
Wait, whoa,
we don't have.
That's not true.
We don't have a problem.
We don't have a problem. Biracial people, if you look at history, a lot of biracial people, because we were considered Black, so of course we're gonna fight for Black rights because we were considered Black too. So
people were on the front?
We've always been there.
Race being a construct is the first problem.
That? Like biracial people always have fighting for Black rights because we love our Black communities. So
it's biracial people.
We can name them,
These people, could I make a clarification?
Malcolm X, mixed race. Louis Farrakhan, mixed race. We can name mixed race leaders.
See them as Black men,
mixed race people.
Not
that was absolutely on the front line when it came to fighting against white supremacy.
They hate me because I'm white skinned. Peace and love, y'all. If I could make a clarification, with race, and we all can sit here at one point in time and make the logical claim that race is a social construct, but yet still place it in the forefront of our minds and establish it as a matter of truth is the most preposterous thing that is plaguing the community, not just the so-called Black community, white community, if you will, but just the community in general. We all can sit here and say, hey,
it's a thing was people get disrespected based on how they look, right? Based on their phenotype. So that's why
this is a feeling, though. This is a feeling. So the intention that we have that we must deal with in order to separate from the bullshit is to take your feelings and leave your feelings on a dominoes table. And what I mean by that is you have to apply these things.
Fuck your feelings. So if you're feeling offended by like racism or anything, then it's like
hold on, wait a minute.
If I could, all right, here's the issue. We must understand that the idea of race, the very concept of race, did not get its implementation into the world until American chattel slavery. There were no races of people. What was being dealt with prior to that was nationality. You have the Chinese, the Japanese, the Koreans, the Vietnamese, the Germans, right? You're dealing with nationality. And then within those nationalities, you had little small subgroups that were generally based off of religion, i.e. the Muslims, the Catholics, the Judeans, right? And then even from in under those subgroups, you might have had like the Saracens, the Carthaginians, et cetera, which its foundations were based on nationalism. What happened under the guise of American chattel slavery, which is brand new to world history, is this idea of we have the ability to separate people based off of caste. So the moment that you start to perpetuate this idea of the racial class system, you are automatically in agreeance to so-called white supremacy. The moment you start to assert yourself as being so-called Negro, Black, and colored, you are automatically in direct line with what the social class system of race has been established as. Automatically, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The moment that you say, hey, I'm black, or hey, I'm white, you are automatically agreeing with the colonization process. So when I talk about this idea of the emotionalism that comes from it, it's because you are identifying with the corporate structure that was established on your own family's behalf because they were hidden away from their nationality.
What the fuck?
These nationality things
Hold on,
have
I agree with you
always...
because I said that same thing. I was like, instead of fighting racism, why don't we dismantle the whole construct of race? But people were like, oh no, you know, that's that white tea people are too powerful to do it, and they were kind of like discouraged. I said that on a live one time though. I was like, why don't we just
Bullshit.
dismantle the whole
Yeah,
thing?
yeah, and I agree.
So I said that before
Listen. Here's
too,
the
but
here's a
people were like,
simple
no,
way
we
to think
can't
about
do it.
this.
So that's why I was like, I guess if you can't do it,
Can
then
we
I guess
hear from Shar? I'm sorry. Can we let Shar speak for like 2 minutes?
Like, I get what Evergreen is saying, but what the host is saying about, like, if we abolish race, if we all woke up tomorrow and no black person labeled themselves black or any race, we are still going to be discriminated against just because we look different. We are seen as dangerous. We are seen as dangerous, especially darker skinned black people are seen as dangerous because they carry this certain. You could not identify as black. We have people, Moorish American. We have black people that want to identify as indigenous and call themselves American Indian. They still get treated like a black person, even if they don't identify as one. People see you as black. So the way we identify, just because I identify as a black woman, that's not damaging to me.
I agree. I agree, sister. And here's the issue. The issue is when we completely neglect law, which is the primary catalyst of what so-called Negroes, blacks, coloreds are dealing with, is the neglection of law. The rest of the planet knows exactly who the dark-skinned melanated people here operating in the United States of America are. The problem is the dark-skinned melanated people in America don't know who they are legitimately, and they can't put a face to it. So what happens is you have the rest of the planet saying, hey, I know who these people are, and I know all of the contributions historically that these people have attributed to the world when it comes to things such as the 7 liberal arts and all the sciences and all of these things that dark-skinned people have done. But the issue is that they don't know who they are. And because they don't know who they are accepting the identity.
Okay, but so hold on, let me speak. So when it comes to you said people usually go based off of nationality, right? But it's like, how can we all sit here and say we're American because all people of color in this country have been oppressed? So it's like, it's hard for us to just say, hey, we're all American. You know, I think that's why so many people are trying to claim their identity and who they are, because I can't just be like, oh, I'm American and just nothing else matters because of what Char said, because no matter what, people are going to look at you a certain way and other you or sit here and, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I wish we could all just be American. I wish that. But it's just, I think it's not for a long time until there's like.
Aren't going to go away until the hate goes away. The problem isn't going to go away.
Yeah, I agree. And the last thing I wanted to say before.
Hey, hold on.
The last thing I wanted to say before.
What's going on?
I was trying to bring Kelsey up here too. Hold on, Kelsey. Oh, you said somebody's gonna drop because I was gonna bring
drop the last
somebody up here. But this is a good combo.
Yo, you're not even listening to people.
I'm gonna drop down.
The last thing I wanted to say before I drop is that the reason why I think that a lot of like light-skinned biracial people feel like they are othered or not accepted by the black community is because a lot of us have anti-blackness. And we don't unpack that, and we go to the black community and we spew this like anti-black rhetoric and think we're supposed to be accepted. We treat them different. A lot of us light-skinned people are colorists, and we have yet to unpack that stuff. I think having biracial safe spaces is asinine. Host, you are a black woman, not denying your other
you
race.
Don't have to be here. I'll let you go. Okay, if it's asinine to you, you can find another space to be in, and I'm not gonna. You don't have to be here. Okay. So anyways, if you guys don't agree with a biracial space, you don't have to be here. There's millions of spaces that you could go to, but if you guys don't agree with it, you don't have to be here, okay? You don't have to be here. Like, it's not for everybody, and that's okay. That's okay. That's not a big issue. That's not okay. I'm sorry, okay?
So I just hopped in, so I don't know the full context of the conversation. I really wish Shar would have still been here to stay, because I really respect Shar and their opinion and perspective.
I respect her too. She don't have to. That's her opinion. That's cool. Like,
right. But what I will say, one, there are two things that I want to address. The first thing is your mods. They always come for me when I come in here as if you and I aren't able to have conversations where I strictly say do not agree with the reasons why. And you say what you agree with.
I know what you don't agree with. Let's find something we do agree with.
But no. But the point is though is that they always are trying to come for me, which is fine. That's why I try not to pay attention to the comment sections when I'm in the box. But the second thing that I wanted to point out though is the last conversation you and I had. You even told me that you are a Black woman. You told me you're Black.
I said that I'm perceived as a Black woman, but I identify as biracial. Like, I identify more as biracial.
But when we were going in depth into the conversation, and I do have it screen recorded, so if you would like me to send it to you, we can maybe do Instagram or something like that. I can see if I can clip it and send it to you. But you did say that you are Black. Like you're a biracial. You're a biracial. Black. Exactly. But no. Like
I would never
just
deny
like
my
I say,
ever.
I'm Black. I identify as a Black woman. Now, if people ask me if I'm mixed, yes,
fine.
I'm a biracial Black woman, right? So I understand. I just let me finish. I understand the context and the differences,
and I respect your identity. I respect if biracial want to identify,
and I respect yours.
It.
Can I just finish?
Yeah, that's all I need.
I respect yours as well. I respect yours as well. But my point was though, is we got to a point of the conversation where you acknowledge that you do identify as a Black woman, and particularly
I said I used to identify as Black women, and then I went into spaces. I used to identify as Black. Yeah, that's true. But I went into Black spaces and they were saying I'm not Black, so I started identifying as biracial because at one point I was identifying as Black. That's true.
You're right, but that's not what the conversation was about. And I already told you though.
I don't want to argue about if I'm Black or not all the time.
I already
that's
told
always
you.
the argument.
Magic,
it's like
Magic,
it gets old. It gets really old.
Magic. I already told you I'm not going to invalidate or identify. How you identify is how you identify. I am not in any sort of power to decipher or persuade you or anything like that at all whatsoever. My point was simply just to say we got to a point of the conversation though where we were in depth. We were talking like what I thought was extremely like real, and you said like when we were talking about the identification that other people put on us in Blacks or in spaces and such, but you even said though that you do identify. You said I'm Black. Those were your words. And again, I will send the clip to you in full context that you want. But so
I am white.
It's okay. It's okay to say I am a biracial Black woman. That's okay to say. I personally don't see a problem with that at all whatsoever. My only point of bringing that up though was to just kind of highlight though that like you even own in some context, in some conversations, your Blackness as a full identity. And I don't want that to be erased.
And this conversation is gonna be like so, because this is what she's asking for, a safe space. I'm Black and I'm pro-Black at that. I can understand that mixed people have this space where they don't feel like they need it through. Because they do, the Black community not fully accepted when it comes to the white community.
I can't hear you. You're breaking up. Hold on.
You're breaking up super bad.
I can't hear you.
From what I could hear, I think again it's being misconstrued what my intentions are, because we also had a conversation about the spaces and how to maybe title them and things like that. Like there was never any invalidation or any
backtracking on my how I worded this. Like is this a problem? Because I remember last time.
Exactly. point. That's my point.
It's a problem with how it works.
My point into what the other person is trying to cut me off to say. Which
no, look
is
at
just
look at this.
I'm saying,
worded bad
that there's going to be a struggle to identify as a Black woman. There's going to be a struggle to identify as a Black woman if you are mixed. Period. She's mixed with Black and white. She's not going to fully identify with Black. But what I'm saying is if she does identify with Black in one moment and the people tell her, oh, you're not fully Black, you don't have the full Black experience, she's going to say, okay, well, maybe I'm white. Like, this is their point. They're saying that they don't fit in anywhere. And that they're trying to figure out.
I am mixed.
Yeah,
and I'm not
look, when you said that you are, like, no matter what, it's going to be an argument because I say I'm biracial, you know, there's going to be...
It shouldn't have to be an argument because you and I have never had an argument before. Why are we having an argument now?
No,
why are we having an argument now when we've never had an argument before?
I'm not arguing. I'm just saying when you said you identify as Black, because you said you identify as Black, all of the comments in that live was like, you're not Black, you're not Black, you're not Black, you're not Black. So it's like it's so frustrating because if I say I'm biracial, it'd be like you are Black. So it's like it's so mind-boggling to me, and it's frustrating.
And I told you already, I understand that frustration, and we had a whole, I'm not going to reiterate the whole entire conversation we had, because we did have a conversation where I said, I understood that. I understand that there are plenty of people, especially on this app, that specifically will say, like, nope, you're mixed, so you're not this, you're not that, right?
Yeah, and
it comes down to you standing in your truth, which is why I say my Blackness is not up for debate or discussion. I don't read the comments except for sometimes, but if I do, like, I'm not going to argue my Blackness with anybody because I don't need to. And I totally get, like I said before, I understand there. And again, mind you, the conversation we had before was about colorism. It was biracial people in space to speak specifically, but my point in asking to come up was just to again highlight the fact that you did say when the conversation was being had, when we were talking about white people and how we can't go into their spaces and they don't see us as mixed and blah blah blah, you with proud and with conviction said, I'm Black. That was my point of coming up. Now, does that negate you being biracial? Absolutely not. My only point was to say, though, is that during that conversation, you chose to identify, you acknowledged the identification, even if you don't choose to label yourself as that, right? You at least acknowledge the identification that others are going to put on you, which is that you are Black. And this is the first time I'm seeing you on camera. And I know there's no space you could ever enter where a white person is going to be like, hey, this is a biracial person. They're always going to see you as Black. And that was the conversation
white guy
we
said,
had
though. There was a
before.
white guy that was like, you look biracial. So some white people do acknowledge.
But even if they say you look biracial, we had this conversation, though, before. You looking biracial, right? Even though we might have a privilege that you know, darker skinned Black individuals do not have, or like more melanated Black individuals don't have, because we can assimilate to whiteness. We are more palatable to white people, right? Even though there is that privilege there,
I get all that.
We still know that they never are going to see us as white. They're never going to categorize
that's fine.
us as white.
And that's
we
cool.
had
I
this
don't care if they
whole
see me as
conversation.
whatever. Fuck how everybody see me. You know, I know what I am. I'm biracial. That's why I'm like, let's break. So what do you feel about this? So do you feel like you still do you feel like you still disagree with that? We shouldn't have our own spaces. Like, is that kind of like?
No, that's not what I'm saying. Again, I only came in. Like I'm supposed to read a room. I know I'm supposed to do all of that. I did not do that.
I get what you're saying.
My only point was,
I hear you, girl.
just
I hear you.
Based off of what I heard, was to mention though that at one point in time during our conversation the other night, like last week, I think it was, during our conversation, you said, I'm Black. Those are the words you use.
I'm Black and I'm white. I'm both. So that's what makes it biracial. I want to hear from Radical Latino. Latino, what's up, Radical Latino? I didn't even know you had a TikTok.
No, it's all good.
Let me hear from Radical. Hold on.
I just want to say one thing, and then guys. Anyway. My main thing is, why do biracials and mixed people have to pick one? That makes no sense. I see the same thing happen in the Latino community. Why do y'all think that somebody has to pick one? That doesn't make no sense whatsoever because
there is a hatred.
Because when an individual
because society doesn't let us choose both.
One.
Can I say something? How about
give me a minute.
Society?
Let me land my plane.
And you know what? I'm gonna drop after this. I'm gonna drop.
Okay, let Radical speak.
But again,
we're gonna go one at a time.
Wait, no.
Let's go one at a time.
Radical. Keep this in mind.
No,
Radical. Let me say this. Radical. I just want you to keep this in mind. I promise I'm gonna drop. I promise. Radical.
It makes no
type of sense.
You know what I'm saying? Because
Radical.
Wait, hold on. You gotta let me finish.
No, I'm gonna drop. I promise. I'm gonna drop.
You gotta let me finish. Drop when I'm finished.
I wanted to hear your point, Radical. I couldn't hear it.
So the thing is, when people do pick one, right? They have to get approval from everybody else who agrees with that.
Approval.
Because the thing about it is, a Latino or a mixed race person say, "Hey, I'm black." Mixed people are in different race. Yeah. It's all so who's the gatekeeper that's going to be stamping people's approval?
Gatekeeper.
Who's this is the reason why I say these conversations should be had with the lighter races, because the blacker races accept you guys until you guys use your privilege against us.
So can I say something? Because
wait, can you give us an example? Can you give us?
I want to talk too, because I've been up here for a minute, and I'll actually answer the question.
Let me who is trying to talk? Somebody hasn't. We haven't heard from.
Me.
Who was it?
TikTok.
Can I give him an example?
I'm trying to talk too.
Can I give him an example, and then I'm gonna drop? So my thing is this: if a mixed race person comes to the black community, they are accepted until they use their leverage, like, oh well, I have curly hair, or I'm better than you because of this, or I'm this, or I'm that. When they start to use that rhetoric, that's when we want to push those mixed races out of our, whether they're mixed with white, Hispanic, Asian, whatever it is. That's when we push them out. So
can I say something real quick? Can I say something real quick?
I'm gonna. Yeah, they shouldn't do that. Nobody should think they're better just because their skin color or hair type.
Yeah, no one should. No one should. But it happens.
This is my thing, and this is my thing about it. This is my thing about it. If a mixed person or a Latino, whoever, says, "Oh, I believe," because of my light skin, light eyes, curly hair, whatever, I look a certain type of way, is because people already perceive them as that. Let's be completely honest. There's a lot of dark-skinned black people that would rather go out with a light-skinned person, a mixed person, because society-wise, they will have either good babies or whatever the case is.
Which is why when you said who holds the keys, when you said who holds the keys to this, I said white supremacy. We have to have these louder conversations with them because they are the one who made us think that in the first place.
Sorry, I'm new to the conversation, but
Hispanic stay lighter.
We can talk about it amongst
Hispanics
ourselves.
try to stay with lighter Hispanics, and they try every group of people do it, and it's because of white supremacy.
And that's why we got to get rid of the racial hierarchy.
Can I?
And I agree with that. I agree with that.
You guys,
I love this conversation.
I think that you guys should continue this because it's a great conversation. But I'm gonna drop for right now. Thank you guys.
All right, thank you so much for coming up here. I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you too, Kelsey. You know, I appreciate you. I was just, trying to, keep some order.
Can I say something real quick?
Tennessee Titans is trying to come up. Let me see where he is.
Can you guys hear me?
Okay, here we go.
Yeah. Can I say something real quick? Question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So,
I mean, other people been trying to talk. Let's not cut off.
Let's go one at a time. I'm gonna go down the line. Okay, Tennessee, or who hasn't had the
me.
I just want to say something too. I just joined, and I just want to.
Go ahead, TikToker. Go ahead.
Okay. So I am also like Latino, and I'm also like black, right? And so to your question of why do we have to sort of choose one side or the other? Like for me, right? In my personal experience, right? I'm a Mexicano. Right, and I'm also like black, right? Like I said,
right.
And so, I consider myself to be more like Mexican than like black, right? But whenever I go to like a black space, and I'm wearing like my area jacket with the Mexican flag in the back, or I'm wearing my botas, or I'm wearing whatever like my Mexican attire, the black people look at me sort of like weird, like. like, isn't he black? Like, you know. But when I go over to the family, and I'm not wearing no sort of Mexican attire, I'm like, you know, it's like, oh, he's not like one of us, you know. So it's like you gotta fit in this sort of standard of, okay, here, like with with black people, I'm just black, or with Mexican people, I'm just Mexican, you know. And I sort of get like, you know, weird looks from like black people sometimes. So, like I said, I'm more Mexican than I am black, so I don't listen to English music. My style is more Mexican than, like, I guess your typical African American or whatever. So I think that the question to the answer is like, you just have to. It's sort of like fitting the environment, like, in which you're in. I guess I don't know how to else to say it.
Oh, code switching.
You gotta like kind of conform to like the standard of like what it means to be. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And for me, it's like, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut
that's
you off.
what we do. I mean, that's what people do.
So
no, you're good. I do want to talk real quick. I've been waiting for a minute, so I'll let you go though. I'll let you go first, but
I just wanted to jump in here real quick and then I'll shut up. But I mostly, like, for me, I hear a lot of people like saying, why do you pick sides or whatever? And it's not even like that. Like, a lot of times, especially for me, because I'm really light, like my mom's Norwegian, I look like a white person. And so what I run into a lot is a lot of people, especially white people, who think that I'm white and they'll say some just off the wall racist shit. And then I always have to like defend myself or like defend the black community and like educate people, and it's exhausting. And then on the flip side of that, like I only feel safe really in black spaces because like my black family, they're the ones that never really judge me. They don't expect me to be somebody that I'm not. They acknowledge like, this is what you look like, but you're still black to us, even though I look like a white. Then with strangers, it's like I feel like I always have to explain. And people literally will ask me like, oh, well, what percentage are you? What percentage are you? I'm like, I'm black, white, native. My dad's black and native, and my mom's Norwegian. And I always have to like literally give statistics on like my percentage of what, because I'm never black enough. I'm never white enough. And my native family won't even like I'm not even on because of how I look, I'm not even they don't even accept me at all. So it's kind of like, we need to normalize the biracial spaces because we're not choosing sides, but we're being picked by the people that look at us and decide which group we belong in based on what we look like, but we belong in all three groups or all groups that we're part of. And it's not fair to feel like you don't belong anywhere when I didn't ask to be born like this. I'm very proud of my black heritage. Like, I'm more proud of it than I am anything else. But it's exhausting to have to explain to people over and over and over again that's my it's exhausting. And so having a biracial space where other people are going through the same thing as you, yeah, you might be darker than I am, but I know that you have the same battles that I'm facing, and I'll never know what it's like to be profiled, like, other than when I'm with my family and stuff. I'll never know what it's like to be profiled based on my skin color, but I see it happen to my family all the time. Like, my dad, he gets pulled over, he puts his wallet up and he keeps his hands on the dashboard and has everything ready before a police officer even walks up to his fucking window. And so, like, I see that happening to my family all the time. And but then to say that I understand it, everybody looks at me like, oh, how could you possibly understand? I don't understand firsthand, but I do understand by seeing it. And so I think the biracial space is important because these are all shared experiences that we're all what our skin color looks like, because we see it happening to our families on a regular basis. And then to have to be forced to pick and choose based on what you look like is ridiculous to me, but it's the reality.
Exactly.
La neta.
I agree with that. Thank you for speaking. But who wanted to speak next?
That's true. Yeah.
I think Tennessee wanted.
Go ahead. It was Season. Go ahead, Season.
Yeah. I've been in here for a minute. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean, I do agree. I think, can you hear me? Sorry.
Yeah, we can hear
I
you.
might be cutting in and out too, but, oh, okay. I think biracial space is a good idea. I don't see any inherent issue with it. Like, as much as we don't really form like a a community, but we are definitely a community of people who experience like similar alienations, like to what Christine was just saying. Um, we like, I mean, my Black family are the same way. They love me, they accept me, but sometimes they crack jokes about me being like white or whatever. And it doesn't really hurt me at all because it is 1,000 times like out of love and not in like my experience of my white family. They're just racist. They just want white people around. They don't want Black people around. It was very obvious growing up, in the way they talked to me and the things they wanted me to do. Like they didn't want me or I have a cousin who's Native who was also kind of around a lot of my white family growing up, and the way they treated them. But in my experience, honestly, people assume I'm Native a lot. So, like, Black people usually know I'm Black. White people usually like mixed, but they assume I'm Native or mixed and Native at the same time. But I did grow up on the res, so that was kind of my experience there. They just assume anyone brown is Native. Um, and then yeah, I mean but the ways that I'm accepted in the Black community is kind of honestly, I think it's like a 65% like, oh yeah, you're Black, you're just light skinned. And it kind of depends where I'm at. Cause like when I was like in Philly, for example, a lot of people say, oh, you're light skinned and would like blow me off or whatever. It didn't really hurt. But where I grew up, I feel like light skins had a bigger and kind of uh, role in the community. It's Juneteenth, so I can share some history. There's actually there was a group of light-skinned people. One of them is pretty famous out here for infiltrating the KKK at the time because the KKK was very large in my state at the time, and they like kept the Black community like informed of the KKK and what they were trying to do by just like putting on the hood and acting white for a couple hours. Yeah, but like in other
They
communities,
made a
like
movie about it, right?
light-skinned people really didn't do that. It's kind of back and forth. If
Wow.
they made a movie about it, that'd be
Is that like
sick.
I think I heard about that movie,
I
The
don't
Black
know.
Klansman or something.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Wow. That's good to know. Thank you
I
for
think I took a
speaking on
picture
that.
of a plaque that of him. Yeah, but it kind of depends on your community. I feel like because that was out here. I'm in Colorado. Like I said, like when I was in other places, it's kind of like people do have that trust for light skinned people because we're like sometimes in certain communities they choose that the whiteness over the Blackness, and it shouldn't be and I agree also with Christine, it shouldn't be a choice. We should be able to choose both. I feel very proud of being African and being Irish and of being Anishinaabe. I feel proud of all three of those cultural identities, and I feel accepted in most of those spaces. There's a few within each one that um, would shun me for being like light skinned, but it's generally white spaces where that is true though. Like for the most part, like they'll be like, "Oh, you're obviously mixed. Like you're obviously just like not white." Um, and then there's
Exactly. I
actually
just
some white people who say the opposite, which is funny to me, and they say, "No, you are white. You need to ignore the everything else type deal." So I guess it depends who you meet, because there's people in every community. Because there's Black
see
people like you're only Black, don't accept anything else, and the indigenous people who do the
exactly,
same. But I
but
think
it's like
we should
it's
be
a
allowed to be that bridge between each
no.
community. Like I really feel like that should be our, if we embrace all of them, all of our communities, like that's a bridge, right? Like our families can come together, and that means
Yeah.
people within each community are having some kind of cultural exchange, and it's all because of you and your parents in some way if your parents are together. Like my parents were together for a long time, so and
Mm-hmm.
like my dad's a widower. That's the only reason. So it's like you know, I don't know. But yeah,
Yeah,
generally
but I
though,
think
I will
that,
generally my experience with Black people is better though. I will say,
but
like
it's
I'm
like I'm over like worrying about if this people accept me, if this person accept me. That's why I want to normalize biracial spaces, so we don't got to worry about always, oh, are these people accepting of me or not? Are these people accepting me or not? Like, I don't want to have to worry about that anymore. You know what I'm saying? I just want to have a space where it's like that's not what I have to think about anymore.
I feel it's so interesting that I see the Latino community going through the same thing. A lot of Latinos who do want to go into these either pro-Black spaces or want to be allies, the first thing you hear from super pro-Black folks is, well, y'all identify as white. You know, like taking one one person and making that representative of the whole community.
Exactly.
It's extremely you know, very disrespectful. And also on top of that, it kind of like it kind of messes up the whole, you know, unity thing that some people want to have. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, am I allowed to speak?
Yeah, go ahead. Who needs to speak next? Go ahead, Universal. You've been sitting here for a minute. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Problem. I appreciate this conversation because I think first it's important to say that biracial people absolutely do deserve a space. And as a monoracial, light-skinned Black person, I think it's important for biracial people to identify as biracial because a lot of them do go through identity crisis. I think it would be completely degressive to dismiss their plight. And with that being said, I think it would be dishonest also to not acknowledge the specific anti-Blackness against African Americans within all of these spaces, within the entire diaspora. And I want to give an example by saying Logic has a Black father that you cannot question, and Cardi B has two, maybe-ish so mixture, you know, and she's allowed to say the N-word. He gets his Blackness questioned all the time. So I want to say, as a monoracial light-skinned person, light skin is not exclusive to biracial identity.
Absolutely. I agree. That's true. That's
so true. I'm light skinned and
yeah, I agree.
I am a Black person. Both my parents are multiracial people, meaning they're made up of different races, but I'm Black. They're Black. My parents were dark skinned people. I'm light skinned. You feel me? I look like everything that they're mixed with.
Right, exactly. So I know that a lot of like light skinned, fully Black people, they go through the same thing when it comes like getting their Blackness questioned and a lot of things like that. So it's like it needs to stop. Like that needs to stop with light skinned Black people as well. If they say they're fully Black, like who are you to tell them that no, you know what I'm saying? So it's like I think that light skinned Black people need to be respected in their Blackness as well. Just like us, we want to be respected, our identity and our biracial identity. I think light skinned Black people, they need to be respected in their Blackness. And who they are.
Yeah, I used to get teased as a kid because I had two dark skinned parents. They'd be like, "You're adopted. You know, you're light skinned and they're Black. You're not the same. They're not your parents."
I want to say this really quick.
People made me bring a picture of my parents of my dad to school because they didn't believe that I was Black. And he embarrassed me in front of class.
Picking me up from school because she was darker than me, and my dad enrolled me in school.
I don't want to talk over anybody, but I did want to wrap up my point really quickly because I did, you know, when we are speaking about anti-Blackness, I think face the anti-Blackness because you can be light-skinned, monoracial, you can be dark-skinned, biracial, and still be anti-Black. And so to Radical Latino, I think you making a statement saying that the extremism of Blackness not accepting, you know, any and everybody kind of derails the conversation just as much as the extreme Black people. You know, the plight always falls on African Americans specifically because I didn't hear about Haitians, they're Black. I didn't hear about Nigerians, they're Black. I'm only hearing about the being ostracized by
I'm sorry, but there's no water fountains that are segregated anymore, so I gotta go.
Bye. Anyways.
That didn't make sense to me.
Can I respond to him, please?
Yeah, go ahead, Radical.
Well, the main reason why I believe
segregation's very real.
I believe the reason why you're hearing African Americans and other people such as myself who are pointing out African Americans because they're the only ones that are doing this. Haitians are not talking about you ain't black. Dominicans ain't talking about you ain't black. So
because they themselves are not wanting to identify as black.
What a lot of people don't see is that African Americans are targeted by Africans as well. So
African Americans are the only ones. Let me finish. African Americans are the only ones in these in many people's experiences who are gatekeeping blackness.
It's not that. It's not that.
It's not black keeping
It's not gatekeeping. It's the fact that this social construct has been created.
Who are the ones that are stamping the approval of who's black and who.
First of all, you have to look at the history. You have to look at the history.
Let me finish speaking, and then people could go on. Apparently, a certain individual, mixed race person, whoever, has to go through a vetting process by certain Black Americans in order to get that black card. So it's
true.
Look, I'm like, I look like
that's a very much.
White people are the gatekeepers because I've never been turned away or treated like something other than black by black people, and I look like I'm white. I've never my black heritage has never been gatekept.
That's your experience. Go around.
She said that somebody made a good point. They said that biracial people are accepted until they start showing like anti-blackness or.
Thank you. That is the main reason that black people, African Americans have a problem with biracial people when y'all denounce your blackness.
But when black people say that, like they generalize, so it's like I could be, I don't show they could see somebody else who have been shown anti-blackness having biracial, and then they'll say, "Oh, all biracial people aren't black no more." You know what I'm saying? So it's like
that's exactly my point.
We all are generalized. We all are.
That's exactly my point. And let's say,
and it's like I don't want to have to do that. I don't want to have to prove that I'm this or that to anybody. I just want to be myself.
That's exactly my point.
And be myself, and not always.
Let's say the blackness doesn't go into a mold that certain individuals like. Let's just say somebody starts sounding like Jesse Lee Peterson. Oh, you're not black no more. You white. Like, come on now. We have to be real about it.
We are being real about it, but I think it's being dishonest to say that anti-blackness is exclusive to black people, saying that it's
no way. I'm not saying anti-blackness. I never said that.
Well, that's what
your blackness being denied. That's what I'm saying.
I didn't want to speak for you. Expect the same respect. Because I do want to hear you. This is a conversation that everybody
you're right,
should
but
be
don't say something I didn't say,
from.
though. That's what I'm
saying.
But
I think it's important for everybody to understand that it may not break even, but you have to walk away with some peace. All of us have participated in anti-blackness. Telling a biracial black person that they're not black is anti-black. So if an African American is telling a biracial person that they're not black, not dismissing or denouncing the other part of it, but making it seem that they don't have agency or space in blackness, is anti-black. So to say that and to not acknowledge the extreme anti-blackness and colorism in the Latino community, because even though I am monoracial, I have multiple ethnicities. So I know how anti-black Latinos are. So
now let me ask you one thing. What does that have to do? Me pointing out the anti-blackness in the Latino community. Me pointing out the anti-blackness in the Latino community. What does that have to do with this conversation?
Y'all go one at a time.
If we could talk about the anti-blackness in the Latino community.
Go one at a time. Y'all talking over each other. Hold on, Radical. Hold on. Let him. I'm finished, and then you go. Go ahead, Universal.
Because I'm listening. I know it's spirited, but I'm listening. So when you say Haitians and Nigerians aren't doing it, it's only African Americans, that's because blackness is seen universally as African American. So a lot of people do not want to be associated with African Americans specifically because a lot of people we are culture. So I say that to say it is not exclusive to you. Like I said, I stay here a monoracial black person, and I had to bring a picture to school. And my dad and my dark-skinned black mother had to come to school to show my blackness. So I understand how it feels to be ostracized from blackness. But this is not just in African Americans' hands. It's absolutely not, because more specifically, being biracial does not mean that you are African American.
Now let me respond to that. It's I find it very interesting whenever a Latino, Haitian individual, whatever, comes into a conversation like this, right? Or comes to any type of conversation. Whenever we start saying certain things that certain people agree with or certain people don't agree with, for some reason the history of Latino-ness, anti-blackness comes into play when that has nothing to do with the conversation. We could definitely talk about that if it has to do with the conversation. But what I'm talking about is anti-blackness, being denied your blackness in the black community. That's what we were talking about, and I was talking about experiences that I've seen and also experienced myself. That's all it was. So it kind of feels like whenever certain individuals either want to get a one up, they have to bring up something that has nothing to do with it. It's just very interesting to me.
So the whole convo is supposed to be about like normalizing mixed race spaces. So I understand there's a fear there that like if we have our spaces, we're gonna sit here and be anti-black. So it's like I understand the fear. That's like a fear. That's why a lot of people don't want us to have our own spaces. So it's like I don't know, how do we overcome that? Because it's like we're not gonna be anti-black because we're half black ourselves. So how are we gonna be anti ourselves at the same time? So it's like I don't know. It just feels like that's why attacking our spaces, because people like feel that we're gonna just become anti-black all of a sudden. Even though historically, biracial people in America have always been pro-black.
On the black side, yes.
Historically. So it's like, how are we gonna all of a sudden, because I started identifying as biracial because of out of respect for black people, because they said they didn't want biracial people representing blackness. So I was like, I'm doing it out of respect for black people. So it's like, how is it going to become? It's not coming from anti-blackness. It's coming from respect to black people. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that's why it wouldn't become from anti-blackness. It's out of respect. So you could respect my identity. I respect black identity, and that's as far as it goes. And that's all that we need to do is respect each other's identity, have mutual respect for each other, and we could be in each other's spaces. Like you could be like, you know what I'm saying? We could all be in each other's spaces. You know what I'm saying? So that's all I'm saying. Like that's all we need is that mutual respect for our differences. Like it's okay to be different. It's okay that I'm biracial and then a fully monoracial that they're not. Like that's okay, and that's it. So that's all I need is mutual respect.
It's actually a beautiful thing. It's beautiful. It just needs to be respected, like all the way around. And in my experience, I've always been. I've never been anti-black ever, and the reason for that is because I've always been able to just be me in that space. I've never had to pretend to be something else. I've never had to, I don't have to code switch. I don't have to do anything in black spaces. I can just be myself. When it comes to being like around my white family, my mom dated this racist, I didn't even have a concept of race until I was like 7 years old, and my mom dated this racist ass dude. And like, she had the privilege to be able to do that because she's a full white person, but I'm a mixed child, and that was terrible. So it's like I've never ever felt safer than I have in a black space, and it's for a space because there's a lot of things that I don't even want to like. I will speak up on if I'm talking to like a white person and I'm trying to educate them and I'm trying to get them to understand like your perception is wrong because you don't even know the history, you don't understand the history. So in that space, I'm able to represent my black community, but in the black community, I feel like I am overstepping, or like you said, it's a respect thing to create this space because I've been told basically like to not speak up or to not be a voice because I don't look like I'm black, so I can't possibly know what it's like to be black, so I can't represent the black community. But the only thing I can do is use the white privilege that I do have because I look white. I use that to educate white people and to get them to fucking open their eyes. Excuse my language, I didn't mean to swear, but other than that, it's like, that's why when you created this space, I was so excited. It was like the happiest moment when I saw that you were creating a space for biracial people, because I've wanted it for so long, and I didn't know how to go about achieving that, because a lot of people don't even believe that I'm mixed. So it's like the argument that I have to get into just to even have a conversation with certain people. And so I really appreciate what you're doing here by creating this safe space for us, because
thank you.
I need it. Like, I've needed this my whole life, and so this is like
the whole point, right? Because we do have our own issues that we face. And I don't want to go in Black spaces and be centered in Black spaces and be like, oh, make it all biracial, make it all about biracial issues. Like, I don't want to do that. That's why it's like, you know, I want to have a space for us where we could center our issues and talk about our issues, and not go and try to take over, or not take over, but go and try to center ourselves in Black spaces where it's like a lot of monoracial Black people are not going to be able to relate to biracial issues. So it's like, that's what it's all about. I want us to solve our own problems and be able to like create our own things for ourselves, so we don't have to put the burden always on Black people, because Black people say that a lot.
The burden in the Black communities, and the burden in the Black community is already big enough. I mean,
they already have a big enough burden. Exactly. So this is actually I think it'll benefit Black people. It's not going to be anti-Black. It's actually going to benefit both of us. We could both. It'll be healthy for the biracial community that's in the Black. We are in the Black. Biracial people are in the Black community for the most part. You know, for the most part.
Can I ask a question right quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so like, you know, I know y'all was talking earlier about like, you know, why do you have to pick and choose, and you know, in the topic of you know, Black people, quote unquote, like gatekeeping a Black card. Well, it's because, like, see, when you're Black, fundamentally Black American, like, you don't have any allies. Like, you know, even African people look down on us. You know, I've had best friends that were Nigerian.
Biracial people are your ally. We've always been your ally historically.
Hold on right quick.
We
though.
come from
so
you.
It's like you really don't have anybody to go to. So it's like, you know, anybody can be racist against you when you're fundamentally Black American, right? So it's like, if you don't want us to gatekeep Blackness, it's like, you know, so you ask the Latino brother down there, you say, hey, what's your ethnicity? He's going to say, oh, I'm Dominican. Or you ask somebody in Europe, they're going to say, oh, I'm Nigerian or whatever. They can put their thumb on exactly where they're from. Like, we don't really have that. So when you talk about Blackness, like, they were calling us Negroes and et cetera, before that. So when you talk about Blackness, that's a fundamentally Black American like thing. Like, that is who we are. Not saying like if you're mixed race that you don't have any say or any relation to your Blackness. But if you take someone from Haiti and you take someone from like wherever in the Caribbean, like they're gonna have a different experience. Like, there's a unique experience being Black in America. And, you know, the brother, you know, when the brother Radical Latino, it's like, you know, you want to talk about anti-Blackness and gatekeeping and all that. That's exactly why we have to do it.
That's
because
great.
when you were doing your Black voice, notice how you elevated your voice and kind of made like, oh, blah, 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 like, damn. Like, when you're recreating a Black voice to make your example, why you make it sound like that? That's anti-Black as hell. And then you want to wonder why we have to...
I got a Black voice now?
That's wild right there.
I think that...
When did I ever have a Black voice?
I don't want
I have
to
a Black voice now?
Anyways, hold on. Yeah, so I support Black people gatekeeping. You know, I think they should gatekeep. I think that so much historically has been taken from Black people that they should gatekeep, and they should be protective of their image and their identity, just like all other cultures do. So I think I support that. I think that's healthy. I think that's good to have those type of boundaries, and I support that. You know what I'm saying? I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I think that's a positive thing, and I support you guys gatekeeping your image and, you know, just to keep yourself safe. Like, I support that. So
I completely support that too. The only thing I want to point out, though, as being biracial and having that Black ancestry, and mine does, like, my family story is like I know the story. Like, I am part of the diaspora, and so there's a lot that's been taken because we're biracial. Those things were taken from us too. Our history, the language, the culture.
Exactly. We have a lot taken from us too. Exactly.
And then we're like, and that's why, like, I feel like the space is so important too, is because those things are taken from us too. But then when you get to being on the lighter skin side of things, or even just being mixed, period, there's a lot of the history that we are directly connected to that we're not even allowed to basically participate in or whatever. And so I do agree with the gatekeeping. I think that it's a good thing, but to a certain extent, because I feel like I should get to know my history. I'm Nigerian. I should get to know, I should be able to know my language. I should get to know the same history that was stolen from me, because the same history that's been stolen from me was stolen from you. And so to say that I shouldn't get to have that because I'm white is not.
Exactly. Like, you should not deny a biracial person their heritage. Like, that's their heritage. They have every right. We don't get
to know anything.
Yeah, we have every right to.
Can I say something?
Heritage. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say, because I have white family members in my family. Like, my grandmother was biracial. Her dad was a white man. Their family members, his other family members have children. They're my cousins, this, that, and the third. Same on my dad's side. It's more so about how you're brought up and where you're from. I'm from Houston, Texas. I have never seen a biracial person be talked about. Any of the things that y'all are claiming up there, I'm not saying it's not true, but in Houston, that's not a problem out here. I have cousins that are biracial, white passing, and you would never hear anything other than "I'm black" come out of their mouth because of where they grew up, how they grew up, and their mother, you feel me, is a white woman. She carries herself a certain way. I can guarantee you she does not carry herself like other people in her life. You know, her father and everything else. Like, her dad's a military guy, straight up white person. When you see this woman, you know, you see her for who she is, but when you hear her talk, you hear how she, you don't see that anymore. So it a part of y'all's problems is how y'all were brought up and where you were brought up at. So that's not every black person's problem. You feel me? That
it's not your problem. I agree. It's not your problem.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying me. I feel what y'all are saying because I've experienced it myself being a black person. I'm black. You feel me? Like, I would never say that I'm anything else. I'm white, Asian, black, and Native American in me. And you would never hear me say anything other than I'm black. You feel me? Because at the end of the day, when I walk outside, that's what people see.
So I think that,
my hair texture, and they're like, "Oh, you're black." But sometimes I can, you feel me, in certain areas, I speak a little Spanish. When I'm around Spanish people, they be like, "Oh, you're probably Dominican or something, Puerto Rico. Are you Puerto Rican? You speak?" No, I'm not. I'm black. My parents taught me how to speak Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
They both dated Spanish people too. So, but a lot of the times it does come from, it starts at home, and my cousins, their mom raised them, "You're black. You're not, you feel me, you're not white, you're black. You're half white," but they will say that they're biracial. My mom is white, but I'm black.
My dad raised me black and my mom raised me white.
And they don't look like, you feel me, like when I say white passing, straight hair, blonde hair, blue eyes, like white passing boys, but they would tell you that they're black. And I mean, other than them telling you that they're black, you wouldn't know. You would not know.
And that's literally like my introduction anytime I meet somebody, because that's the first thing I want anybody to know is that I'm black.
So
I'm proud of it.
When it comes to that, yeah, there is biracials that are more culturally black, so they identify more black. There's biracials who are raised in white areas. So they're more culturally black. I've always been like the only mixed person wherever I go, because I was raised, Washington State, white as fuck, I'll be the only mixed person where I'm at. And then I went to Atlanta. I used to live in Atlanta, and it's like I would be the only mixed person no matter where I'm at. So it's like I've always felt like I was the only one, only mixed person no matter where I've been. So it's like, yeah, it is a cultural difference. America's very diverse culturally. So, if I was in Houston, I would probably, say I'm black because it'd be a more black culture. But versus me being like the only mixed person in the room, no matter where I go. You know what I'm saying? So that is a big difference.
Let me say something real quick before I go. First of all, shout out to you for having this conversation. I look forward to the one for tomorrow. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we're having subscribe to Radical Latinos channel, because me and him are going to do a live tomorrow on YouTube together.
Yeah.
And talk about what was the title of it? It was called Mixed Latino People Trying to
forcing to pick up a race box.
Yes. So we're gonna talk about that on YouTube tomorrow.
So shout out to you for having this conversation. The thing is, I don't know if you know my story or whatever, but I'm a typical Latino kid, right? Dad, dark as hell, Dominican. Mom, olive tone, from Ecuador, right? The thing is, growing up in New York in the Bronx, me hanging around with 5%ers and Nation of Islam and all them other people, they told me I was black because my dad was black, right? So I came out brown as hell, but they were like, nah, you black, and all this other stuff, until I started venturing out. Other black folks was like, you're not. So I was starting to feel confused about, okay, who's the gatekeeper who says I am that and I'm not? You know what I'm saying? And that conversation started internally with me, but I just left it alone and I did whatever I had to do. Now, the thing about that is that conversation has gone on, not only for me, but I've seen it everywhere else, especially when it comes to biracial mixed individuals. Now, coming across your channel and coming across your content, I started to find out, oh shit, there's a lot more that Latinos go through the same exact thing here in America. I'm not talking about outside, but here in America, go through the same thing when it comes to identity, especially when it comes to identity and picking the race box or whatever the case is, because it's wild confusing. And most of the time, in our households, we don't talk about race. We don't talk about your black this or your brown that or whatever the case is. We don't. You know what I'm saying? Because back in our homeland, we're either our nationality, but if you want to get deeper, we're like mestizo. We pick our mixture. So that's why when we come here, it's a little confusing. So when it comes to certain situations like that, certain conversations like that, it does get a little heated. And if I did offend anybody, my fault. I didn't mean to, but it does get a little heated. And I think that we should start having an honest conversation instead of just undervaluing other people's experiences. You know what I'm saying? That's all I gotta say.
Thank you for being up here. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Thank you, Radical Latino. But I wanted to speak on that. So the thing about America, it's like we don't have like one culture that unifies us, right? Because it's like, because people have been segregated, so people create different cultures, and it's like, I wish we could go by nationality like Latinos do, and it's like, I feel like it's just we're not united. Like America, United States, we're not united. Like we're all so different culturally, and everybody trying to preserve their own culture, and we're just not, we don't share one culture that we could feel connected. It's like there's a lot of division in America, I guess. So it's like I don't know what to do about that. To be honest.
Well, I think you're making a good start with just doing this. I feel like it's going to make a big difference. I think it's going to reach a lot of people, and I feel like it's going to open a lot of minds, including our own. I feel like it's going to expand even how we view things too,
Yes. Yeah. So there's a lot of issues that we have to overcome, that we have to talk. We got to keep talking about it, because I hope one day we don't have to sit here and worry about race, because that'll happen when nobody's being discriminated because of it or being treated. You know what I'm saying? So when that happens, then we don't got to worry about race too much. We could just chill.
I agree.
Not really.
And I want to say this because I know I came in like pretty much as the dissension, not necessarily disagreeing with you. I cannot say that enough, agree that it's important for biracial people to have a space because, as you mentioned, a lot of specifically African Americans are spoken over. And you all absolutely deserve to be heard. You deserve to be heard as well, because as a monoracial Black person, I cannot even begin to imagine the thought of my parents, somebody that I came from, being against me. And that is a lot of people's experience. When I first got on TikTok, I saw a biracial Black kid. I don't know how he identified. That's just how he, appeared. His white family took him to like apple orchard or something, and his granddad just kept pointing out the monkey, saying that was him. And so what I was saying was, even though you all experience a form of anti-Blackness within the African American community, we all still accept you, because it is not exclusive. It's not exclusive to it. Trust me, it is because of what we inherited as enslaved people, but still in a rich culture. So when we say you all aren't, I think a lot of us are saying, for those who absolutely cannot have a Black parent, we're saying you're not dust. And I think a lot of pain just come with that, because when you say you just are, it does exclude your experience with your other parent, which is unique to your existence, you know.
Thank you. Thank you.
Also for, the, I forgot his name, a Radical Latino, what I was saying was, in these spaces, it's important to also take your part as well, because we all know that, and that's the thing, like he said, he spoke up, he said most Haitians or Dominicans, and that's why I said I am monoracial, but I have multiple ethnicities, because I have a Haitian father, he's Black, but I was raised in foundational Black American culture. I cannot even begin to tell you what, Haitian culture begins like, because, TMI, but my father was absent, And so I understand a lot of this, but I do not understand that one unique experience, and that is having an other parent, and more specifically, a white parent, because white people are villainized, and whether or not we
some of them are villains,
believe in it or whatever, these people have to find some type of love, or you get what I'm saying? I'm not vilifying white people, but what I'm saying is that you never know if somebody's going to walk up and condemn you simply because you have a white parent, or, you got to think this way because your mother's racist or your dad's racist or this person's racist. So that's all that I'm saying, is that it is important for
I agree. Oh wait, go ahead.
I got a question. This will kind of go with like everything that we're all saying, but when y'all say biracial, what do you mean?
I mean,
not just saying, like, are you saying two parents of two different races, or Black and another race?
I go by ancestry, so I can only speak for Black, white, biracials. So I'm talking about people who have European and African descent. So it's like two different lineages, right? So that created me. So that's what I kind of mean by that. But biracial is not exclusive to only Black and white people. We know that. And
that
I'm
was
only
the question.
talking
That's what I
about,
was asking.
we don't have a term for ourselves, like Blasian or Wasian. We don't have like a term for ourselves yet. So that is exclusive to like Black, white biracials, like other types of biracials have. So we're kind of trying to get there eventually. So yeah, that's what I mean by that.
Okay, I was just trying to see.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. But I wanted to talk about, like, the bottom line. It comes down to, we need to all get to a point, everybody needs to get to a point where we respect racial differences. That's all we need to do. That's all we need to do. Look, I respect you. Just respect racial differences, cultural differences, and leave that, like, we need to really work hard to push for that. Like, teach our kids that, making sure that our kids respect, racial differences, cultural differences. And, that's the type of, because, America's history is so brutal, but we need to keep fighting to make sure that where we live is like, we can respect, because we're all so different. There's so many different types of people here. It's like, we need to really push to make sure that no matter, so we don't got to worry about anti-Blackness, or, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, that's what we need to keep pushing for. So, my identity is respected, your identity is respected, and that's all that we need to all work together to push for. You know what I'm saying? So just respecting racial differences. So.
And I want to let's quickly, even as a monoracial person in this moment, who I feel like is still giving some pushback while still agreeing with you, there's people in the comments that want me to shut the hell up. Because a lot of people are extreme in that thought. Oh no, I don't care. I'm just giving an example that
I stopped reading the comments because my blood pressure was rising.
They just won't accept us. And then also Latino spoke about like the Israelites or somebody. I mean, come on.
Israelites.
I guess one thing I want to say though is like, whether it's being like just a whole racial construct period, it has like especially being biracial, or I'm triracial, I guess. So, but it has created such an identity crisis in me where it has like stunted my ability to grow spiritually and mentally, because I'm so busy trying to figure out and show who I am and express who I am. And then the pushback I get from other people, then it like stunts me spiritually because I have like this physical, constant conflict going on, as well as just trying to get to the base point. So like that, what you're saying about is just respecting each other's cultures and ethnicities and racial upbringing. It's like, yes, let's get to that point because I want to get past this point so I can focus on my spiritual growth.
Absolutely. Look, I did my first video I did a year ago on my YouTube channel was called Spiritual Healing for Multiracial People. So you should check it out. I'm gonna send it to you.
Yes,
It's about healing like the inner conflicts between ourselves, like being ripped between like two different, and just coming together and being at peace with ourselves so you can move forward. You don't have to have that burden of that constant inner conflict going on. You know what I'm saying?
Send it to me, please.
I think it would really benefit you a lot. Like I
need that.
Because I did that inner work too, where I had to come, like I was just always just like trying to figure shit out, and it was stunting my growth. So I'm like a very spiritual person, so it's like I had to overcome that. So it's like I made a video to help people overcome that too. So I added you. I'm gonna send it to you. Okay.
Thank you.
And make sure you join my Discord too. Everybody join the Discord. So
I don't even know what Discord is. I'm gonna be real.
Oh, never mind.
What is it?
Okay, I'll send you the link to the YouTube.
Okay.
I got a YouTube page that I will send you the link to.
Is there a link to Discord? I don't. Is it an app?
It's in the bio. So anybody who got a Discord, just join the Discord, and I'll give you. But yeah, I think this was a really good conversation. I'm really happy. I think that we addressed a lot of key points and good things about, I think it was good. I really appreciate everybody here.
I actually feel a little healing going on right now. So
yeah, I feel some healing going on.
Yeah.
Like, so we're coming together, we're healing, and that's the whole point. That's the whole point, is coming together, healing, so we can be the best people we can be, and we can treat each other with respect, and we could live our best lives, period.
Yes.
Right?
Yep, absolutely.
That's all I want. So I'm really grateful for all y'all. I'm gonna make sure I follow everybody, and I thank you guys for jumping on here and speaking, giving y'all the opinion, and I feel good. I feel like I got what I needed out of this convo, and I hope everybody got what they needed out of the convo, and we can keep moving forward. And yeah, all right, y'all. Okay, bye, y'all.
Bye. Have a good night.